Hey, somebody needs to find their funny bone. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by Books for Veterans. The Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C. has asked for 10,000 Andy Andrews books. I'm personally donating as many as I can, but to reach 10,000, I need your help. What we're able to do to make that easier for you is for every $12 donation you make, a hardcover book will be sent to the VA for the veterans, their families, and for the employees of the Veterans Administration. That $12 will cover the cost of the book, the shipping, the handling, or you can purchase one of these awesome Books for Veterans t-shirts, and your purchase will include a book sent in your name. So whether you can make this a personal gift or corporate donation, just go to andyandrews.com/veterans. This can be added to a website purchase done as an individual entry or in conjunction with a Books for Veterans t-shirt. Thanks very much for your support. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And as you know, we love it when somebody comes to the table with both. And we have a special guest today, one of my favorite people in the world, one of my favorite people in the universe. He is a dear friend, and he's a little intimidating to me because I believe that Jeff is one of the greatest talkers in the world today. He is truly, he's the best working stand-up comic that there is. He's an author and a great guy. Please welcome Jeff Allen.
Yeah, there's 20 for the book.
Don't think I won't.
For the book. I know you're going to take that, and you're going to get books to the vet. My son's a vet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's for the book spread? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
101st Airborne, did 6 years, one tour of Iraq.
Wow, he was a Screaming Eagle.
Yes, he was. I got a story I've opened my shows with that's one of those rare things that falls into your lap as a comic that's true, and you don't even have to change a thing. So we're up in Montana, which is an 80-mile-an-hour speed limit. We're visiting my son, my grandkids. I set the cruise at 95. So Tammy says, you're going to get a ticket. My wife, Tammy, you're going to get a ticket. I said, no, they don't ticket under 100 in Montana. She says, who told you that? I said, it's common knowledge, sweetheart. Just let me drive. So anyway, a couple minutes, Porsche shoots past. If I'm doing 95, he's doing 115, 120. I said, now he'll get a ticket. A minute later, I see the state trooper lights. I go, see, what did I tell you? So imagine my surprise when he slows down, he locks in behind me, and he pulled me over. So I couldn't wait for him to get to my window, and I'm screaming at him, did you not see the Porsche? And he goes, I was after him, and then you showed up. And then he says, who doesn't slow down for the police? And Tammy says, my husband said you don't ticket under 100. He says, who told him that? She said, he said it was common knowledge. He said, that's ridiculous. Tammy says, that's what I said. So now he sees my license and says, you're from Tennessee. I said, I am. And I said, well, he says, oh, I was stationed at the Fort Campbell, 101st. And Tammy says, oh, our son was at Fort Campbell, 101st, did one tour of Iraq. Cop says, what year? She says, 2008. He says, oh, I was there in 2005. That's when I said, you two want to get a cup of coffee.
You said that?
Yeah, I'm doing 95. What point does he pick up on the fact I'm in a hurry, write my ticket so I can get on with my day? I mean, really, only one of us is getting paid here. I'm not. I'm not on the clock. Let's avoid the chit-chat. I love the chit-chat with the police. Are you aware of how fast you were going? Yeah, I have a speedometer in front of me. You know, the only thing I was unaware of is where you were sitting, because I would have slowed this beast right down. You know? Yeah. So anyway.
And I can just see that with you.
Yeah, I'm back and forth. I mean,
the cop, you. I mean, I could just.
This is not a pleasant, we're not in a coffee shop, anyway. So.
Did he ever get the Porsche? No.
No, but that funny thing was he hands me a warning. And
did?
Yeah, and he says, you can thank your wife. I said, I'd rather pay the fine. Are you kidding me? Yeah, so anyway, we got off on that.
Man, that would be a great souvenir, a warning for going 95.
Yeah. Well, it's Montana. I mean, there was a time, I think there was places in Montana, it was 100 for a while, but then they realized that people abuse no matter what you set it at.
Yeah, then it's common
So
knowledge.
80.
Common knowledge, you can go 115.
Right. Then it's common knowledge. Yeah, right. So anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, so Jeffrey, how long have we known each other? We've known each other for since
long time.
Since God was a boy.
Yeah.
And I've watched you even before I knew you.
Right.
And I thought
Same.
I thought that you did anger very well. Before I knew you, I thought, wow, that guy, he does anger very well. And little did I know it wasn't an act.
No, Tammy said my anger was God's gift to the world. No, it wasn't. I had when I first took acting classes, we were doing scene studies, and I told the instructor, "You don't have to give me anger. I can handle that." But it was surprising to me how many men in acting class have a hard time with it. They've been told to stuff it, I guess, their whole life, and we were encouraged. Let's just say, as young men.
Well, it's funny because I obviously you and I dissect comedy, and so we can't help but dissect the comics
Right.
that we're watching, and so I thought before I knew you, I thought he does anger very well, and now you still do anger well, but you do it with a smile.
Right. Yeah, it was a different. Somebody asked me. I came to my faith at 40 years old. So I was a comic for 18 years before Christ captured my heart. And then the only thing that changed was the heart, the attitude. It's funny because, when people ask, I started cleaning up my show 2 or 3 years before that. We got called to school. I think I wrote about this in the book. But we got called to school because my 4th grade son called his teacher some really nasty names, cussed at her. So anyway, I sat there and said to the teacher, I'd love to be able to look you in the eye and tell you have no idea where that child heard that kind of language. But my wife and I, we talked like that at home. So anyway, driving home, Tammy said to me, she goes, this whole thing was a reflection on us. We need to stop talking this way. It's not pretty on a 4th grader. So anyway, I started then I wondered if I could clean up my comedy show without it. And it made me better at what I do. As a storyteller, you have to get a thesaurus out. I learned to phrase things a little more colorfully without the language. So it actually made me better at what I do as far as comedy goes. But the smile came. I was working with a guy who was a salesman, then got into comedy. And he said to me, "You don't smile." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You don't smile." He said, "The smile," he says, "you're a big guy, you're intimidating, and a scowl on your face makes people want to stay away from you. And when you're on stage, you want people drawn close." He says, "You should learn to smile." So I'm not making this up. So I get out of the shower every now and then. I'd walk by the mirror and I'd look and I'd go, I had to work at it. It really, it did not come naturally to me. And so, yeah, and now I just, I'm full of joy.
It's funny to me that that I, when I was thinking about doing this and talking with you on the podcast, I want to cover the comedy. I want to cover the book. I want to cover the anti-predator project that you're involved with. And yet, most people, I can separate the parts that I'm wanting to cover, the direction I'm going. But I can't separate Jeff the comic from Jeff the husband and father, Jeff the author of this book, Jeff the guy who is involving himself in things that have no benefit for him. You're an enigma to me, because I got to tell you, now tell me the name of the book again. I'm so sorry.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? I wrote the foreword to it. I can't remember the
Right,
name
you
of
did
it.
write the forward. It was, yeah.
But that book. I mean, when I read the book, you sent me the early copy so I could read it before I wrote the foreword, and I gotta say,
Right. You didn't know those people.
no.
That's
man.
why you nailed the forward so well when you said you're going to meet two couples. And
Yeah, definitely.
When I was on the cruise with Huckabee, we sold copies of the book to the passengers, and women would catch me in the hall and go, "I don't like you very much."
Keep reading.
Yeah, I said, "Keep reading the arc of the story." Tammy she read the first 2 chapters because I said to her, "You need to be okay with my version of what we went through," because the first half of the book is probably the first 7 or 8 years of our marriage, and it's not pretty.
And I got to tell you,
yeah,
it's horrific.
yeah.
I mean, I guess we know people are living and acting like that, but none of us know that we know them,
Right.
And the courage that it takes for you and Tammy to put that book out, because I was talking to Gloria Gaither about that book, and Gloria said this. She said the courage that Jeff and Tammy have to put that out and allow people to know that things can change.
Right.
And because 99% of people that say they have marriage problems, they ain't having marriage problems like that.
Right. And I think a lot of people ask, because Tammy's biggest concern was the reflection on her. Why would you stay with him? Why would you,
Because she read 2 chapters and thought, what?
We're horrible people. She goes, "I can't read anymore. We were horrible people." And I said, "Well, obviously you finished the story. We're not those people." And I believe this, that when God captures a heart and a home, that it may break, but he doesn't leave you there. He picks you up, and the courage to change comes from outside of us, then works its way through us in that relationship with Christ. For us, that's the way we look at it. It was something changed. I mean, I tried, and you read all this. I mean, but I started with New Age. I started with the 12-step program. They said pray. I said, to what? I didn't believe in God. So
now you started with the 12-step program because
alcoholism. I spanked my 6-month-old son in the crib, and Tammy took him away from me that night and sat on the end of the bed and fed him. And I realized he was crying, and I wanted him to not cry, and I ended up hitting him pretty hard on the backside. And Tammy took him away from me and sat on the end of the bed and fed him. And I realized what I could have done as a grown man to an infant, and it frightened me to death. So I said to her, you either take me to Alcoholics Anonymous, and if you don't take me, I won't go. I just won't have the courage to go. So make me get in the car tomorrow, drive me to my first meeting. And I walked in, and basically what I got out of that was pray. They gave me what they call the 3rd-step prayer. Again, I'm an atheist, but I want to be sober. Again, this frightened me.
So you were an atheist.
Yeah.
And when they said pray, you're like, pray to what?
What? And they said, find something in the universe larger than yourself. Make it up if you have to. And that was the struggle for me. I mean, I'm rational enough and sober enough to go, look, if I'm making up a deity, that makes me delusional. I mean, so God exists or he doesn't. And that was my journey, was trying to find out if God existed, what did that look like? And I read self-help, I read New Age, I read Buddhism, I ended up on Ayn Rand, I think, years later, and realizing that, okay, if God doesn't exist, then I need a belief system to build my life around. And I chose Ayn Rand's objectivism. I thought, I can be rational and reasonable and live a productive life. And some of it it just didn't connect. I just wasn't. It was like, the way I describe it is, if you're dying of a spiritual thirst, which I was, no relationship with God, then everything you read by man And believe me, I tell churches this all the time. You can walk in any Barnes and Nobles in the world, and the shelves are filled, tens of thousands of books of man's attempt to find meaning apart from God. That's basically what it is. You don't need God. This is how you find meaning and purpose to your life. And so you get this, it quenches it for a while. And Tammy would see this. I would change for a week, 2, a month, whatever, But then eventually the old nature would come back. And that to me is what my first sermon that I heard was on Ecclesiastes, where the 1:1, Ecclesiastes 1:1, meaningless, all in life is meaningless, resonated. That's my conclusion after 8 years of seeking God, was that this is ultimately will all leave you empty and dry. There's nothing that will last. It rusts, it winds up in the landfill, basically. So when I heard that and read that, I felt if that deep truth was in that book, then there must be other truths in the book.
There's not many people who have been led to Christ by meaningless.
Right. And then as you study Ecclesiastes, which I'm doing on Monday nights on my live Facebook
Live, yeah.
Facebook Live, because I think it's the most relevant book today. I think Solomon knew more about America in the 21st century, thousands of years ago, that I think millennials are coming to the conclusion that they've been sold a bill of goods. Materialism will never sate what we're designed to desire, which was a relationship with God. Even Sartre said before he died, in order for something finite to have meaning, it has to be fixed to something infinite and never changing. He never would use God because he was an atheist, but that sure sounded like God to me. But it was, life is a vapor. This life will be, you think of how old the earth is, and then you're gone. And what you leave behind will be, probably squandered by the generation behind you because they have no respect for what you worked for and earned. So anyway, that was what I just dove into that book, and it was like.
So what was the turning point? That
was the one thing, and it was almost as if, God said, "Okay, you're gonna." Again, I always say this: if God had sat me down at the age of 31, I crawl into Alcoholics Anonymous, and then He says, "This is what I'm going to put you and your wife through for the next 7 or 8 years, but at the end of this, you're going to know my son Jesus. You're going to know a life and a peace that you never." Who signs on for that? I'm not going through all that on purpose. No, fix me now. And that's where the "Are we there yet" came from. In the back seat of the car, your parents are doing the driving. They know where the journey's going, and you're in the back seat as a child going, "Are we there? Are we there? Are we there? Are we there?" Every stop along the way, is this it? Is this the destination? So that was me in recovery. It was like, am I there? Am I done? I'd smash things, break things, and then I'd have a month, 2, 3, 4, 5 of calm. I was a decent human being. And then so that's what Paul talks about in the New Testament. It's this constant warring between your old nature and the new nature of the Holy Spirit. And it's this, I can recognize it. They're as distinct as night and day to me now. My old nature, which still rears its ugly head periodically, and the new nature, that peace. And believe me, a week on the beach with 4 children under the age of 10 has shown me my new nature. Tammy even said to me at one point, kids are running laps and they're screaming and chasing each other and the dogs are after them, and I'm sitting there reading a book. She pats me on the head. She goes, "My, how things have changed." And I go, "Yeah, isn't that noise beautiful?"
Tell me that story that you just quickly related it to me the other night about when you got up and you went to the store without your grandson. You said, and you told him later, "I was cranky." And tell me that, and how you explained cranky to him.
I got up from my nap, and I'm not in a good mood when I wake up. I don't know anybody who wakes. Some people do. I want to punch them, but so I wake up and I'm walking, and I got to go to the store to get some water because we're going through milk or whatever. Anyway, he says, "Papa, can I come with you?" And I go, "No, And I just walked out the door, and I just got in the car, and I felt awful because I left him like that. So anyway, I went back, and he, I sat him down. I said, I want to apologize. I said, when Papa wakes up from his nap, he's cranky. He goes, what's cranky? I go, that's cranky. I'm not nice. And I don't ever want you kids to see that, ever. So I said, I ran out the door like the coward that I am.
How many years have you been sober, Jeff?
30, it'll be 37 September. So this year. So,
Wow.
yeah. And every time I meet people on the road, I meet piles now because since the book has come out, a lot of 12-step people are coming out to the comedy shows and telling me 4 years, 6 years, 7 years. I've had people 6 months. I've had men cry in my arms that because of that book, they turned their life. They got sober. They went to finally.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
It's a new life.
This book, Are You There Yet? By Jeff Allen. You got to get it, and you probably need to get 2 when you order it, because you're going to read this and you're going to know somebody you need to give that book to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's funny. I said Tammy needs to be okay. I said, so we spent 45 hours over 3 days correcting my version of what we went through.
Sure.
But no, she was a good editor. She really was. She took out things. I always tell this part of the book. It opens with, I proposed to marry her at Cleveland Airport baggage claim because I wanted the reader to fall in love with my romantic side. I did. I was on a red eye and I landed, and no ring, no plan. An impulse. By the way, if there's a young man watching this, I do not recommend this. If you want to do something impulsively at the airport, buy a hat. If it doesn't fit, you can return it. So anyway, the chapter ends. I find out Tammy's in the middle. She's in California with another man. And when I called it an affair. And Tammy made me take the word affair out. And I said, why? She says, if a woman reads that, she'll think there was something romantic about me and him. There was nothing romantic. All I wanted was someone to be nice to me. And I tell men all over the country, man, you have to remember the first time you laid eyes on your wife. Remind yourself of what that felt like. Remember that, because some other guy will look at her that way, feel what you felt. And if you're not paying attention, they're vulnerable. I get it. My mom, we used to call her Saint Arlene. When I told her that Tammy was involved with another guy, she goes, I almost did that. Mom? What? She said, yeah, your father was never home. He'd finish work at 3, 4 in the afternoon, come home at 10, 11 o'clock at night, every night drunk. She says, after months and months of that, some guy at work asked me out to just go to dinner. I was just looking for some company. Guess who showed up home from work on time? She says, your dad walked through the door at 5 o'clock. I was getting ready to leave to go on this date.
Wow.
Yeah. And she took it as a sign that out of months of not coming home, he just walks in that night on time.
Wow.
So I thought, if my mother can get pushed to a point, yeah. And when I found out about it, I called her at the hotel and I said to her, get home. I'm not doing this over the phone. 2 hours later, her friend called me and said, Tammy's too devastated to fly publicly right now. She's just sobbing in the room. She'll be home in the morning. And I believe this, Andy. Had she come home that night, we would not be married. James in the Bible compares the tongue to a rudder on a ship. The rudder's a small part of a large vessel. You steer that vessel. Tongue is a small part of our body. We steer this. We can bless, edify, build up, curse, cut, tear down. And I would have cut her that night verbally. I don't think we would have recovered from the things that I would have said for that. But she didn't come home, and I had one night alone. And that reminder of what kind of man, or kind of husband I'd be. An inventory, the 12-step call. I did my inventory on what kind of husband I was. It wasn't pretty. And I went from how could she to what took so long. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, I really, picked her up at the airport, gave her a kiss on the cheek. She goes, "That's it." And I go, "That's all I got left. We're a mess. You and me are a mess. If what you want is in California, I'm not going to stand in your way. If you want our marriage to work, you have to own half of this. 50-50. If it gets 51-49, then imbalance will destroy us. We'll start calling each other names. We'll start blaming one or the other. So you own your half, I own my half. If it's meant to work, it'll work. If not, and I'm trying." And I told her that. I said, "I'm trying, sweetheart. I really am. I don't want to be, and it's to a point where if and any woman that's in a marriage like this will relate to this. No matter how long you go without smashing or breaking things, it could be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, that trigger is in them. So the first time you raise your voice, the first time you smash something, that reaction to cower or whatever. And I don't ever want to see my wife ever go through that again. And, that's why she doesn't golf with me, Andy. I was yelling at the Bears on TV one day, and I could see her just go, "Jeff," and I go, "Babe, if I can't yell at the Bears, I'm done watching them." Because they don't do things well, ever, So I got to be able to yell at the Chicago Bears. I have to.
So let me ask you a comic question.
Yes.
I love asking people who have been in the public eye, I love asking this question. What was the coolest moment of your career, and what was the biggest disaster you've ever been a part of?
I think the coolest moment, the first thing that you take the first thing that pops in your head, was the first line I delivered at the Gaither homecoming.
Really?
15,000 people. I mean, I was working in front of 50 at a comedy club for years, 50 to 100, 300, whatever. So to deliver that first joke and hear 15,000 people, I mean, goosebumps. I mean, I was like, "Oh, my Lord, I could get used to this."
And relate to us what Bill told you. Because I think Bill and Gloria are just, they are, I don't know. They're second to Jesus to me. They are so wise. Tell everybody what Bill said to you, because he was giving you a chance as a comedian to come into his audience.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I came back.
And you are not a Christian comedian. You're a comedian who's a Christian.
Well, I am. Yeah. Yeah.
You are,
yeah.
And you were then.
Yeah, I did.
But you really were then.
Well, I met the story behind getting with the Gaithers. I do a show at Sam's Place. That was Gary Chapman's thing at the Ryman on Sunday.
Right, okay.
Corzine says to me, "You want to go up and do 5 minutes at the Ryman?"
Yeah, and Chaz Corzine was Amy Grant's manager.
And Michael W. Smith.
Michael W. Smith.
Right. So anyway, I go up and do 5 minutes. 2 days later, somebody calls me at home. "I got your number from Chaz. We're doing a show for the Christ Presbyterian Choir at the Belmont Mansion in the living room. It's like 30 people, 40 people. And we have no money." I go, "Yeah, I don't care. If Chaz said so, I'll do it." So now I do the show. I'm standing there talking to people. And there's a woman just yakking. And there's a guy behind her just standing there. Anyway, she walks away. And he walks up. And I said, "You're not her husband?" He goes, "No." I said, "Man, you got the patience of Job." Anyway, I said, "I would have ran her off. I thought you guys were married." He said, "No." He says, "I work with a guy named Bill Gaither." And I said, "Who's that?" He goes, "You never heard of Bill Gaither?" I go, "No, I haven't." He goes, "This is going to be better than I thought." It was Bob McKenzie.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bob, I get a call the next day from my manager. Says, "Who were you talking to last night?" I go, "Some guy named Bob." He goes, "Well, Bill Gaither's office called." I go, "Who's that?" "Well, my manager's Jewish. He had to look him up." He goes, "He's got 3 of the top 10 music videos over Mariah Carey, over all genres. He's outselling everybody." So I go, "Oh, wow." So anyway, I have lunch with Bill. Come home and tell Tammy, I think I just had lunch with the Elton John of gospel music. She goes, who's that? I go, I don't know, but he's huge. He's got a little gathering. That's what he called it. A
little gathering.
Little gathering, right? So on the way in, I got videos. I just had produced my first Happy Wife, Happy Life on VHS. So anyway, we go to Kinko's and we print up a little 8x11 piece of paper. It says, Happy Wife, Happy Life, $20. We walk in, the first thing we see is Mark Lowry's got it's like covering an entire wall.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we heard harps. Everybody had their wall covered with their photograph. I crumbled up my paper. I threw it. We're not going to sell nothing. So anyway, Bill tells me at lunch, he says, a third of my audience will laugh at whatever you tell them. They're there to have a good time. They're going to have a good time regardless. There's another third of my audience that may not quite understand everything you're talking about, but they're going to laugh because the first third are laughing. And again, they're there to have a good time. There's a third of my audience that has never been given permission to laugh their entire life. They have been told throughout their church life that this walk on earth is something you endure until you get to heaven, and then the real joy begins. If you can make them laugh, that third laugh, we'll have a long relationship. So I go up, I deliver my first line, I get goose. I mean, it was like, holy cow. And I do, I think, 7 minutes that night. And then Bill comes up while they're applauding, and he leans over and he goes, you got them all the way to the back wall, man, thanks. And then the funniest thing was the next day, Dan Postema comes over to me, one of Bill's friends, and he says, we really like what you did. Now, you know this, the butt's coming. Really like what you did last night. But today, when you do your breakout, could you tell the audience you love your wife? And I go, they don't know that. And they go, well, you hit her kind of hard last night. And I'm thinking, you have no clue. This is the second half of the book. I am living the second half of the book now.
Right.
I'm not that guy. So anyway, I go on stage. I do 15 minutes. They're applauding it. I'm walking off, and I remember, I got to go tell them I love Tammy. So I walk back. And I'm not kidding you, Andy. I start telling, God bless me with this amazing woman. It's a wonderful, and I start crying. I mean, sobbing. I couldn't control myself, talking about how beautiful she is, how much grateful I am she stuck with me through all of this, and I'm sobbing. So anyway, I walk off. Tammy looks at me and goes, what the hell was that? And so from then on, that was the start of my ministry. I figured all I got is a story. That's it of what we were, what we've been through, and how God led us to some semblance of a peaceful existence together. And every time I would do it at a church, she would ask me, "Did you go Jimmy Swaggart? Did you go full Swaggart? I mean, did you
full Swaggart?
Full Swaggart." So anyway.
So, again, you got to get the book, Are We There Yet, by Jeff Allen. And where do you want us to get it?
Amazon, and leave a review would be great.
Amazon, and please.
If you order it from me, it might be months before you get it because I don't pay attention. And I'm the only one shipping now.
Right. Okay. All right. So we'll get it Amazon. We'll leave a review.
And it's on Audible as well. And you've read books. So I broke off a couple times and gave some context to things they took out of the book. One of the things they took out that I'm upset about, and we can talk about this, was the Tikkun Olam. I mentioned that to you.
Yeah. Explain that, because I loved hearing that.
Yeah, I did an acting scene, and it was in there. And I went up and looked it up afterwards. Sometimes you deliver lines in a scene, and you don't know what they mean. You just deliver the line. Anyway, I looked it up, and I thought it was kind of cool. In the Jewish faith, God knows the world is broken. He knows it. He knows it. You're not surprising him when you get on your knees and go, boy, this place is messed up. What the Tikkun Olam is in the Jewish faith is, what are you doing to heal the broken world? He has charged the Jewish people with fixing what is broken. So your Tikkun Olam is that. What am I doing to heal a broken world? And it can be anything. So for me, it's this. It's the Anti-Predator Project.
Tell me about that.
Well, Trent, it's funny. Lenny, my manager, calls me one day and he says, I gave this guy your phone number. You're going to want to talk to him. I said, I am? He goes, you are. He says, 15, 20 minutes. Just give him a say. Let him say what he needs to say. We talked for an hour and a half. He worked for one of the alphabet agencies in Washington, D.C., law enforcement agencies. His thing was human trafficking. He realized the federal government's not going to do a thing meaningful. They're not going to do a meaningful thing. They'll throw a bone to the public every now and then, but not going to do a thing about trafficking. There's too much money in it. So he started his own, he left the agency to start his own, the Anti-Predator Project. And when I talked to him that day, he had just come back from Mexico with the remains of a 14-year-old girl who was killed in Mexico. So he brought the remains back for her mother to bury. And this is what he does. You know, he's a small operation, but he trains law enforcement. Part of what he does is train law enforcement agencies on how to recognize, how to set up trafficking, anti-trafficking divisions in their communities. Small town police departments don't have a lot of resources, which is where a lot of these cartel. I was sharing this on stage one night in one of my shows, and someone came to me and said they had two girls taken from Walmart parking lots in a small town, Pennsylvania. I mean, like Amish country. You know, it's a cancer throughout the world, and it's young boys, young girls, and Trent is just, he does the yeoman's work. He really does. And he went to a large agency to raise funds. And they told him he needed to fire his board. He said, I'm not firing my board. They've been with me. These are people I trust. I'm not bringing anybody else in. So if you go to the website, antipredatorproject.com, and you buy a T-shirt, a hat, whatever it is, all the money goes to them. I don't get anything. I don't want anything from this. This is my tikkun olam. So I can lay my head on the pillow at night and think, you know, regardless of what kind of day I had, somewhere out there, there's a young girl maybe being rescued from this because of something I said or did. And again, I won't know those until I get to heaven. You never know what those ripples that you send out are doing. So a hat, a T-shirt, whatever, you can lay your head on the pillow at night and know somewhere out there, even, you know, regardless of the day you had.
We will put how to connect with this on the show notes.
Oh, great.
And
he's a good man.
And I would like you to connect me with him. We'd like to have him as a guest.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
And so whatever we can do to get that word out, that would be awesome. Jeff, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. You know that, man. You know, we've been trying to get this, and it's not like you're, you know, around the corner. You know, it'd be nice if you had an office in Nashville, where most people do. You know, nobody sets up in Orange Beach.
I know. You know? Well, you know, we like to live where everybody else goes on vacation.
That's it.
So we catch them when they come down here to go on vacation and sit on the beach with their grandchildren running around.
Take a boat ride with Andy Andrews. It's always fun.
Oh. I wondered when you were going to bring this up.
I'm not going to bring it up, man. All I know is my grandchildren said it was an adventure. And that's, again, they don't have the multitude of stories you have to tell. But they have one good one now. How Mr. Andy
got stuck on a sandbar.
Yeah.
You know, we're almost to the end of this.
You didn't
You
think I was going to let that go, did you?
Well, you know, I was hoping maybe your comedy chops had fallen.
No. What I like was the fact my grandson, who's 8, got a little freaky at first. And then he looked out and saw the water was about a foot deep.
Right.
Hence the sandbar. And he hopped right out, you know, just hopped right out of the boat.
You know what? You know what Polly said to me last night?
What's that?
She said, I know, because I was horrified. You know, I have my friend Jeff, his wife Tammy, their 4 grandkids, and now we're stuck on a sandbar. You know, we're going to have to get pulled off. And it's going to take time. And we've got these kids.
And let's not say that. Remember the guy that pulled you off, the young kid, thanked you because this was the most difficult tow job he ever had. You know. So anyway, you train a young tower. Look at the positive side. The silver lining.
Okay.
All right. But
All
go
right.
ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted. Polly said,
she said, I know you're not ready for this yet. She said, but at some time, I think you ought to get Jeff and Michael Perry on the show together. Now, Michael Perry, you may not know Michael Perry, but you got to know Michael Perry. He's got to know you because you are two of the funniest people I know. Michael is a writer, an author that lives in Wisconsin.
Oh.
And in fact, I'll give you one of his books before we get out of here. But he is very funny.
Oh.
And he came down here and I took him out in the Gulf and we broke down 12 miles out. And so we're limping back, we're limping back. It takes like 3 hours to get back. And Michael's like, I always wanted to catch a saltwater fish and I caught one. I caught one, then the boat broke. And so fishing with Andy. So Polly said, I know you're not probably psychologically ready for Michael and Jeff to just unload on you.
To share their boating experience.
Yeah, she said, but Michael and Jeff would be a great show just to watch you sit there and take it.
Yeah. Well, to your credit, I will say this. As we were boating back to your house, the parts of the harbor where the GPS said was supposed to be 4 and 5 feet deep was like a foot.
Yeah.
The low tide had gotten really, really
It was
low.
like crazy because it had been way high
Yeah.
for like 10 or 12 days ago. And then,
Right.
well, I mean, I think it says something that even the towboat got stuck.
Yes, he did. That was a little disconcerting.
I mean, as we were sitting there, other people got stuck on the sandbar. Then the towboat comes and he gets stuck. And so
Yeah.
there
we go.
Anyway, thank you, buddy, for being
Thanks
with
for
us.
having me, man.
I just appreciate it. And I also want to, I don't know if congratulations are in order for you for being a new contributor to Wisdom Harbor, or if congratulations are in order for me to get you to be. Yeah, we've already got on Wisdom Harbor, we already got a concert of yours on Just for Fun. So you've been a contributor for a while.
Okay.
But now,
Speaking of concerts, you and I need to do a show in Orange Beach.
man,
We need to do an own show here.
I would love it.
We need to do one. That would be great.
Yeah, I would love that. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out this afternoon.
And we'll raise money for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll do it next summer when I come down on vacation. Then, in the 83,000 pages of tax code, I could find one in there that I can deduct my little trip down here.
Yeah.
We'll even bring the grandkids on stage. They can wave. That's it.
On that
Part of the
3,000 pages of tax code. Oh, my God.
Yeah. 83,000 pages. Gee, what could go wrong with that?
Yeah. Good grief.
One of my audits, the guy had the whole code. And he got up to P, and I told my accountant if he knew a tenth of what was in those books, he wouldn't be working for the government. He'd be in the private sector making real money.
That's true.
Yeah. They went to take my home deduction away because I was on the road so much. They call it the transit employee law. And I go, where'd they write that law? He goes, they wrote it for circus employees. I said, they're going after circus employees. What's biting the head off a chicken making these days? We're 40 trillion in debt. Are you kidding me? You're going after circus. I slid my keys. Across the desk into the auditor's lap. I said, take it all. Take everything I own. Just load it up on a truck and drive it to Clinton's house. He was president at the time. Drive it, I don't care. It really was a profound moment for me. I think I wrote this in the book as well, but it was a profound moment. I realized at that moment, one, when they said, how many days you on the road? I didn't know. I looked at 228. I go, no wonder she's leaving me. I mean, really, it hit me. I was 228 days on the road. No wonder she's leaving me. And the second thing was, it's just wood, styrofoam, plastic. That's all they can take from you is stuff. And the most important things were her, the kids. And that was it. So when we lost the home because of bankruptcy or whatever, anyway, I don't want to ruin the book. all the joy that's in the book.
The joy that's
in the book. But anyway, when we were getting the escrow lady said, I got bad news for you. The IRS is taking whatever money you made on the house. And I said, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is her and the kids. This is what matters. Tammy said for the first time, we were married 8 years at that point. She goes, I believed you for the first time that we were a priority. So, I mean, things do change and you can get better.
Get the book. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer, the official podcast of the Orange Beach Lady High School Softball Makos. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limper. The Noticer theme, written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Life jackets for the cast and crew, provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by UniqueJellies.com. Friend, has breakfast become boring for you? Have you had enough grape, strawberry, apple, and plum jelly to last you a lifetime? Log on to UniqueJellies.com and taste your life changing. At UniqueJellies.com, we have, you guessed it, unique jellies. Try our radish jelly for a start and work your way to broccoli jelly or our famous fried pork chop jelly. It has real pieces of fat mixed right in. For mild taste, UniqueJellies.com provides a list of choices headlined by celery jelly, potato jelly, and a jelly made from sweet iced tea. For the more adventurous palates, we offer jellies in habanero and ghost pepper flavors. And don't forget our top seller, Carolina Reaper Jam. Spread on a biscuit, it'll start your day by taking your head right off your shoulders. Log on today. We are UniqueJellies.com.